Hello, everybody. Once again, we are so glad you are here and you've joined us for this amazing recording of the podcast. So let's go ahead and get started. So, welcome to Maria and Friends. Where we dive into the topic today of red flags, and we're going to be sharing practical insights that have made a difference in our lives. I'm your host, Maria, and before we begin, I want to make one thing clear: I am not an expert. I am simply here to share what has worked for me and hopefully inspire you along the way. So if we're ready to explore new perspectives, learn from personal experience, and uncover strategies that could potentially enhance your journey, then stick around. Let's embark on this exciting adventure together. This is Maria and Friends, and today we have our guest, Ms. Jade Jenkins. She is a licensed
Hello.
She's a licensed clinical social worker and works as an adult therapist. And I am so glad she's here today. I was um, thinking about all the things that we're going to be able to share today. And I'm so glad she finally said yes, because she is a hard woman to schedule because she's real busy. And I know her personally from church, and she is an outstanding person, human being. I can't say enough of her because I really, truly appreciate you. So, Jay, tell us a little bit about yourself. And let's start with tell me why you got into licensed clinical social work. How did that happen?
Well, I've wanted to be a counselor since I was in high school. I wanted to do counseling. And so I've kind of known what I wanted to do since I was really young. But I originally thought wanted to work with kids.
Oh,
But
wow.
right out of college, I ended up getting hired with adults. And now that I've been working with adults, I don't think I would want to work with kids. It's a lot harder with kids
Really?
from colleagues of mine that have been children's therapists. So I'm happy where I'm at. But yeah, this is kind of what I've wanted to do for since high school.
Awesome. So today we are going to be talking about red flags. I know this is really exciting because we were talking yesterday and prepping for today, and some people call them red flags, white flags, green flags. Whatever color is a warning color for you, that's the type of color that you want to choose. So let's dive into it. What is a red flag in your opinion, Jade? What is a red flag?
Well, I do first want to say that, all of the stuff that I talk about here on the podcast is just my personal insights and opinions as a therapist. I'm not providing individualized therapy for anyone. So I encourage everyone to seek your own personal therapy. But I'll just kind of start with the one that I had mentioned yesterday. It was
Yeah.
one that came up in public. I was out at the movies with my mom, and I was standing in line for soda, and there was these two young girls standing in front of me, very young. The oldest one was maybe early 20s, and she was with her younger teenage sister, and she was just telling her, when you get older and get a boyfriend, he needs to change for you, or he's not the
Wow.
one. You don't change for him, he needs to change for you.
Wow.
And I was like, that's pretty toxic. I'm not going to say anything though, because I'm off the clock. So
How old was it now?
yeah, I'm like,
So what are your thoughts? What was wrong with her saying that to her? I'm assuming it was her little sister. But what do you think? If you can elaborate and then tell me what was wrong about her saying? Because I mean, what do you think she should have said? What was the problem with that?
well, I mean, first off, going into a relationship, if you're already going into it with the attitude that you're going to change this person, it's already off to not a good start. Like, people are who they are. Yes, there's little things that we can adjust here and there, but to change who someone is not really what is not healthy. We need to be able to accept one another for who we are, and that's the person that you like. You like them for who they are. Also, it should never be just one person that's making any kind of adjustments. You know, a healthy relationship takes equal compromise, equal effort. It's not just one side. It's not just the guy that has to adjust things, like we do too as women. And I kind of thought about it. I think, been a lot of conversations in recent years about toxic masculinity, and I think the response to that has ended up being toxic femininity.
Do you think we overcorrected on that?
Yeah, I think so. Like, we don't do anything, we don't make an effort, we don't change, the guy has to do it. You know, it's both. We both need to work on things and improve ourselves, but not try and change who the other person is.
I understand the concept of accepting people where they're at and not trying to change things. However, I think there's got to be some deal breakers, some
Yeah, of course.
no, heck no, I'm not doing that. I don't care who you are. Because I personally think that if I go into a relationship already with such a standard that I'm not going to be flexible, I don't care who you are. It's my way or the highway or no way. Or, if he wants me, he needs to come over here and, blah, blah, blah. And how did you even go into a relationship with somebody already setting all those boundaries, expectations, and all that stuff? And
I mean, well, I just think of it as like, well, would I want that person coming to me like that? Well, you need to do this, that, X, Y, Z. I'm like, well, I'd rather be single then, because I want to do what I want. But I mean, I think it's okay to have deal breakers. There are some things that you absolutely cannot live with. So when you have those deal breakers, then and that person is not able or willing to adjust that, then you walk away from that situation. You don't try and force change and make that person into what you want them to be for you. That's kind of where it can get unhealthy. There's nothing wrong with having deal breakers. But I think it does depend too. It's like if you have a laundry list of deal breakers, it's going to be a lot harder to,
right.
find a good match, because you got to think about the other person may have deal breakers too. The other person is going to have things that they're looking for as well. And it's not just the other person, both parties. We need to be thinking about, hey, are there some habits that might be kind of annoying for a partner if I ever had one? Like maybe I should work on things too, The
So
two.
let's talk about those deal breakers, and we'll talk about deal breakers, and let's talk about red flags because um, I want you to talk about. I know that there's a difference between, oh, he just chews gum like this, and a,
Right.
a red flag, a genuine red flag. If you can give me some examples of what is so unhealthy in a relationship that is almost toxic, that I would say this is a deal breaker. Like, this is, I keep saying deal breaker, but I mean like a red flag. What red flags
For
are
anyone, walk
toxic
away.
or not? If you can talk, give me a couple examples of that.
Well, I would say the first one that comes to mind is if somebody, guy or girl, says all my exes are crazy or all my exes are this or that. That is a red flag immediately.
Really?
One. Yes, because
Why?
that usually indicates that that person is not really able to reflect and recognize their part in what caused the relationship to break down. It's always the other person. And so when I hear a guy say like, oh yeah, all my exes are crazy, I'm like, what did you do though? Like,
Make them
and
crazy.
I
What did
mean,
you do to make
and
them
then
all crazy?
also you were attracted to them. So, like, but yeah, to me, the all my exes are crazy or all my exes were awful is a red flag, I would say.
What other
Um,
things?
um,
How about love bombing? That's one thing.
oh yeah, good point. That is a good one. Yeah, love bombing can be a red flag. And that one's tricky. It's hard to identify, you know what I mean? But I would say if someone is going like over and above and beyond too early, too soon, that can be a red flag, because first of all, love bombing can be a tactic of abusive relationships. So they draw you in, and once they've got you, the love bombing stops. And the person on the other end of it is constantly trying to get the relationship back to that place, almost
Yes.
like a drug. like if it could just be as good as it was at first, but that was a tactic. And sometimes people don't realize that. So I think, if someone is just overly showering you with attention and gifts and praise and compliments, and
But
it
don't you? Okay, so but I'm just trying to get very clarification on this because
Mhm.
that's what you want at the beginning of the relationship.
Yeah,
But
but
so how do I tell when it's normal and then when it's like a little crazy?
um I think that the other person needs to still have like their own separate hobbies, their own separate things. Like you can't be the absolute center of the world for this person. That can be not a good thing, because it's not sustainable also to think that over the next 20 years, or if you want to be in a long-term relationship, that this person's going to be spending all of their time and effort trying to make you feel special. So I think just the normal, like on dates, doing kind things, being thoughtful, maybe coming up with a surprise date here and there, listening to what you're saying, like for your birthday, getting you a gift that you didn't necessarily directly tell them you wanted, but they were really listening. But just constant showering of texts all the time, um, gifts constantly, like just the constant, where
Almost
it's like
obsessive. Almost
a
obsessive.
little bit, yes.
Almost obsessive. And I can say, and I'm going to be very transparent. This is a lesson I learned the hard way because there was this person that I was just getting to know, and he was showering me with gifts and this and that, and I was like already by the week, I love you and I love you,
Yeah.
and
Mm-mm.
I love sir, I mean,
That would be
that's
a big
too
red
much.
flag for me
Like,
too.
I mean, I
Love you,
believe,
by the
I
way.
think there's love at first sight. I've heard that, but I love you already in the first week, and this and just the intensity. What I felt was unreal, too much, and
Yes.
it was like, but because I didn't know any better, I didn't know what love bombing is. I didn't know
Mhm.
none of these things like that. Okay, we get it. We got a couple of comments. We'll comment on those, and we have a questions on that. But I did not know what it was, so I was like, oh wow, this is I've never had this before, and at that time I was like not. I yearned for to be loved and acknowledged and all
Mhm.
that stuff. So I kind of got caught up in that. But it's still in the back of my mind, there was that little thing. This is not normal. This is not normal.
You got to
And
listen to that
that was but
intuition.
I was too like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And then I was just into it and like, oh my God. Until a couple of things happened and it woke me up and I said, oh no, this is not it. No, 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 no. And I cut the relationship, but now I know that was love bombing. I just didn't know it was. Thank God he did other stuff that made me think, oh, this is not the person,
Mhm.
and cut it out. But had it not been, I didn't know that was such a thing as love bombing. I mean, because you yearn for love, and there's this guy that
Mhm.
is just makes you the center of his world, and it's really easy to get addicted to that
Yeah.
acknowledgement, to that affirmation, and oh, it's just
I think
crazy.
one good way to kind of tell if it's love bombing is if the person, if you bring up an issue, that, hey, this bothered me, or this didn't make me feel good, and they bring up the, well, I did this for you and I did this for you, and
Yes.
kind of listing the things almost as if like I'm using these things to purchase your
Love.
approval. Yeah. And like now you owe me, or
Yes.
get mad at me because I did all these things for you. That's kind of like a so that was not a genuine effort. That was, there was something tied to it, kind of a thing.
Yes. So we have a question here. Let's see. How about staying friends and having with
Like
his
being
ex?
friends with exes. I mean, I personally, I don't know if you would say it's a glaring red flag. I personally would have a hard time with that. I think if they have kids with that person, being amicable with them maybe is one thing, but having that person be like a true friend with like a genuine emotional bond, that would be a little bit difficult, I would say, because there's still an emotional tie there. And if this person has had a romantic relationship with them, no matter who you are, it can be difficult to separate those emotions, you know, um, even if you've moved on to another relationship, if you still have that strong of a connection with your ex, why are they your ex then? You
Yeah.
know, it's kind of what I wonder. It's like, well, if you're, you know, I don't know. Some people do function much better as friends, but more often than not, that those lines can get really blurred. So, yeah, and I would that actually, Sally, kind of your response brings up another red flag of kind of like minimizing your feelings, minimizing your emotions or your feelings about something. If something really upsets you and you bring it up, um, and that person was like, "You're just overreacting," or "You're this or that," it's clear that they're not willing to consider your feelings about something, trying to kind of not reflect on themselves and if that's something that maybe they should look at. So I would say even that response is a red flag. Or
Yeah.
you're just jealous. They're, well, I think it's a reasonable thing to feel jealous about.
Yeah. It's let's see, and Angelia says, it's not for me, don't do it. I thought it was okay and got burned by
Mhm.
it. And
Yeah,
then
and that's me personally too. I don't think I would be okay with that. Again, like if they have kids with that person and they're amicable with them, but to call that person like, are they calling that person when they're upset?
yeah.
Like, or is it, hey, it's my kid's birthday, we're gonna go all do something together as a family? Okay, I get that, but
Now when it feels like a triangle,
yeah,
like you're in a tri what do they call that now?
love triangle. Yeah, I don't know.
Trifecta situation. I don't know something.
Thruple.
It's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah.
How about is it a red flag when a man is in the process of divorce? They're just separated. Like they live in different houses and they have different living spaces, but they're not legally divorced. However, they're in the process of it, so they're just separated. How do you is that a red flag? That is what are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question, actually. For me personally, again, I would say yes. I would say that's a red flag, just because a divorce is a very serious thing, emotional thing to go through, no matter who you are. Um, and to just jump right into another relationship when you haven't even tied up, the last one, emotionally, that person's not going to be in a good, solid place to be able to be in a relationship. And also for me as a Christian, um, I whether they're living with that person or not, they're still married, you
Correct.
know. And
This is
for
how I feel
me,
about it.
yeah.
My question is, I've asked that because that comes across right, and
Mhm.
I've asked, okay, if something were to happen to you today, if something were to happen to you, who would have the right to go claim your body?
Yep, that person would
if
legally.
if you
Mhm.
if something happened to you, who would keep your house, your car, your whole all that thing? Who would have so that would be, let's say you and I are in a relationship and we're serious and we're committed, but because it's not legally, the cycle has not been closed,
Mhm.
I would be out on the street. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to even bury you. She could even, and the reason I have so much detail about this is because I saw this happen in the situation.
Mhm.
Because what happened, it was so crazy because we were at work and this one of my friends, she goes, I gotta go. I'm like, what happened? Oh, my ex just passed away and I need to go this and do that. And I'm like, what? But he's your ex. No, no, legally we're still married even though we've been separated. So she got to keep the house, she got to do the funeral, she got all the benefits, she got money, she got I was and then and the girlfriend, after 3 years, nothing.
That's
They did not even
terrible.
allow her in the funeral, and she's the one that took care of him. She's the one that because he died because he was sick, and all those things I think about. I'm like, no, no, does
Yeah.
not.
So again, that's kind of like whether you're a Christian or not, whether you have biblical standards about that or not. it's just not a healthy situation to be in emotionally, legally. Um, so yeah, I think that, people need time to heal from stuff, to be emotionally okay, to be whole again, to after a divorce, and just jump right into a relationship immediately without giving themselves any sort of pause is really not allowing themselves to heal, you know?
Correct, correct. How about if you are dating them and they're not providing child support
Oh,
because
that, yeah,
they say
no. Big red flag. Big red.
because they say no, I don't make enough money, and then they take all my money, and then
Well,
he's
then you
like,
shouldn't have had kids. I'm like, honestly, because that shows, like, again, an inability to reflect on your responsibilities, to take responsibility for yourself. If you can't care for your children, how do I believe you're going to care for me? What if
yeah,
I have children with you? Like,
exactly.
no, 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 no. That's a big red flag for a guy or a girl.
Yeah,
I,
and
I, I think.
we'll talk about red flags for the girls here in a minute. But how about if I'm asking all the questions? 'Cause I'm just thinking, what about if he still lives with his mom or his dad, but he has a good job and he has his car and he's paying his bills?
I think that depends on the situation. Because
Yes.
has there been like a very huge tragedy in his life recently? Did his house burn down? Like, like I don't know.
And
Did
then
he
his house
just
burned
move
down.
here from another country? Like,
And his house.
or have you been living there for 10 years and
Oh
could
yeah,
afford to be on your own, but you haven't? Like, I think it really depends on what the circumstances are around why they're living with their parents. I mean, I had to move back in with my mom as an adult with a career and everything,
yeah,
because rent went up so high,
yes,
and it was hard to find a place on my own. And now I live with a roommate, but so I would say it really depends on the circumstances, and are they making efforts to get out of that situation, or are
correct.
they just comfortable like staying at mama's house?
And also, what do you think is how many questions? Failure to launch, Pastor. how um how many questions is it appropriate to ask in finding out if they're the right person? Like during dating, how many? I mean, sometimes it feels like an interview, but if to me, I'm trying to fill a position in my life that's extremely important. Important. Of course, I'm going to ask questions. Of course, I'm going to find out. Of course, I'm going to. I mean, I am going to do the research. I'm going to do it,
Mhm.
get to know you, analyze every single thing you
Background check,
say,
credit report.
right? Because
Yeah.
it is, and who said there? You can never ask too many questions, Bridget.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
would say there's not really a limit, but here's the thing: ask questions, but pay attention mostly to the actions versus the words. People can say anything. They can tell you, oh, yeah, I'm like really good at this and I'm really good at communication. And okay, well, we'll see. Like, let them show you the things that they're telling you. So, yeah, ask questions. They'll tell you whatever they're going to tell you, and give them time to show you. It's, unless a miracle of like God, Jesus himself appears in front of you and says, "This is your spouse, marry them tomorrow." Like, okay, that might be, but other than that, I think it takes time and being in different circumstances with a person and seeing them respond to different things to know if what they're telling you is accurate. You
how long?
know,
How long does it take to know somebody really well?
I mean, I don't know. I'm a little bit of a true crime junkie. So there's this show,
And
Who the
Mario,
Bleep
hold on
Did
just a
I
second.
Marry?
Mario, I know you're listening. If you're probably the one of the only guys that's gonna respond. Can you please put in the comments things that you have seen red flags in
In women.
women?
Yeah,
We're gonna
absolutely.
talk about that because it's not just men, it's
Yep.
women too. So Mario, if you can put a couple of red flags, just keep it PG because I don't want Facebook to shut us down.
Uh,
Go ahead.
but yeah, I mean, so there's the show Who the Bleep Did I Marry? And people who've been married to their spouses and had no idea they were like a drug runner or like all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
But I think even in those situations, there are signs, there's little red flags that people overlook. Um,
Oh,
so,
Pastor Gigi said, don't ask him. 'Cause he's gonna tell us. It's gonna get real here.
but I mean, I would say at least a year of dating.
Really?
I don't know. For me, I mean, I guess it just really it depends. It's different for everyone. My brother and his wife, they were acquainted. They had known each other and been friends like almost 10 years ago. They had not been in touch for 9 years. She was single and was like, I wonder what this guy's doing. I think I had a crush on him back then. Reached out to him on Instagram, slid into his DMs, and they started talking. And within the year they were engaged and
But
were
it was a year.
married in just over a year of dating. They were
Yeah,
already
but that was a year. That I mean, that's because I always think a year gives you at least a couple of seasons.
yes.
At least,
Holidays, you gotta see how things are they are during the
correct.
holidays because that's a
Yes.
stressful time for a lot of people.
So you go through holidays, you go through, summer vacation, you
Mhm.
go through spring, there's a whole at least 4 seasons of this person, that you can kind of get, an idea. So when I meet somebody and then they're in a rush to make a relation, they're just in a rush. I'm like, why are you in a rush? Do you need papers?
Or they're trying to get you before you really realize who they are.
Yes, I'm like, why are you in a rush to get? I mean,
Mhm.
are you leaving the country? What's going on? What's happening? So those are. I don't know if anybody has other red flags. So as women, we also, what red flags do you think we as women have? Oh, Mario, let's see what Mario said. I was gone. Tell
Oh,
y'all
red
about red
flags.
flags that women.
That would be from a perspective of man, that would be awesome. I mean, this is just from our experiences. Um, but yeah, I'm more than happy to learn about that from a male perspective.
Absolutely.
Um,
But they're kind of the same. I mean, male or female. If some might vary, but for example, if a woman tells you, you know what, my ex, the same thing. My ex was a jerk. I mean, he put a restraining order against me. He blocked me. I am not allowed to be around him. Or that you're like, what did she do?
hmm,
All these things.
yeah.
So
I would say a red flag from either person, guy or girl, would be like, not wanting you to spend time with other people, other friends or family, kind of being overly jealous. That's one thing that I think some people think is endearing or cute when a guy's like, oh my, she's like, oh, he's so jealous. He just
yeah,
wants me all to himself. No, honey, that's
yeah,
not healthy. Like, you need to have your own lives, your own
yeah,
friends, your own
yeah,
individual things,
yeah,
because the longer that goes on, the more isolated you're going to
yeah.
become and the more they're going to be able to manipulate you. And so, for either person, if a girl is too clingy, if she's texting constantly and like will not let you, if you don't answer in 5 minutes and she's blowing up, like she's got some anxious attachment issues, you might want
Oh
to take
wow,
2 steps back, you
I
know,
talk about that. Some anxious. What did you call it? Anxious.
anxious attachment.
Mm,
Needing constant reassurance that you like them, that you're, not cheating, that you're, I mean, if someone's got really major trust issues and constantly bringing up, well, I was cheated on before, like, okay, well, then I guess you need to heal from that before
yeah,
you get into a relationship and start
yeah.
putting that on me.
That's that's
No.
that's one thing that I see us women do, and I can't speak for men, but us women do is that we've had such bad relationships with one guy that we start dating the next guy and we make him pay for every other guy that did us wrong.
No.
Like, and we can't do that. And we tend to do that, like, oh, he cheated on me, he did this, he did that. And we expect him to just pay for all the crimes of every man that we've ever dated. And that is so, or
Mhm.
live by such a high standard that it is very detrimental to anybody's mental health to live
Yeah.
under that. And you're like, no. And the most likely they'll say, no, I'm good. You're too
Well,
toxic.
and it happens to women too, and I've seen it happen with friends. I even had a friend that I had to kind of help mentally get out of an abusive situation, because that's a good one, Mario. If he wanted to, he would.
That's right. If a man don't pursue you, he don't want you, period.
Mhm.
Ooh, ooh, that hurt.
um,
Hold on, let me see what Angelia was saying. Selfishness, not being loyal, not having integrity, lying, and not being able to forgive, and
there's-
not having self control for me. I also look that he serves and knows his purpose and has vision. That's good.
yeah,
That's good.
having ambition, having goals is really important, because you will get understimulated with someone who's just satisfied with whatever the status quo. Like, it gets really boring and really old,
What's
unless,
what's understimulated? I don't know what that means. Sorry.
well, I guess because I've been in a relationship like that where the person was just like, I don't really care to get promoted, or they needed like one class to finish their master's, and they were like, nah, I don't need. I'm like, really? Like, and just kind of like, I don't know, just not wanting more for themselves.
Correct.
Just, it's not, there's nothing to like, it's,
No
it's
motivation. No.
motivate each
No.
other, to push
Correct.
each other to like, so it gets really stale, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I was
No.
gonna say, going back to my friend
Yes.
that
Good.
was in this situation where the guy had been cheated on, blah blah blah. He really used that to emotionally manipulate her. This is one thing
Wow.
women need to be careful of, because we're very compassionate and nurturing by nature. We are nurturers. That he was like, oh, I've been hurt. And she's like, well, he just has trauma. But he would literally physically hold on to her at night when they were sleeping, so he would know
Really?
he moved or got up. And, oh, it's just his trauma. I'm like, no, baby girl, get out. He
Wow.
needs to work on his trauma. Like, using that, well, I've been through all this and I've been through all that, and to kind of get that compassion. I was like, oh, poor guy. Like, he just needs me to be there for him more. And no.
It's like they help each other's craziness. Like they feed each other's craziness.
Codependent. Mm-hmm. There's the codependency is when there's someone who is very needy and someone who needs to be needed.
Wow.
And that's not healthy. Yeah.
You-
But I think it's easy to fall into that because, again, women, we want to be nurturing, we want to be loving and healing. And you can be that to an extent, but the person has to seek that healing themselves. We have to still be independent and autonomous human beings, and we're all still responsible for ourselves at the end of the day. And putting that on the other person to be responsible for healing your wounds and proving to you that they're not going to hurt you, like, that's just an unhealthy dynamic.
I think that anything that's, I mean, there's so many other red flags that we can talk about, but I think anything that feels not good anymore, not normal, it's
Mm-hmm.
not good. Like if you
Listen
start
to
thinking,
intuition. Yeah.
correct. I mean, and for us that are believers, we know that the Holy Spirit, we know that God starts giving you the, that heebie-jeebie, I don't know, whatever, that little tingling, that spider sense, whatever you want to call it, but you start feeling like something is not wrong. Doesn't feel good, and just look for those signs that
Mm-hmm.
this person is bringing so much drama into my life. It stops feeling good. I start worrying about what they say. I start worrying and constantly proving myself, constantly reassuring. I mean, after a while it gets exhausting. It gets
Oh, yeah.
exhausting.
Well, and no relationship's going to be perfect. There's going to be conflict. But if it's constant and you're just constantly struggling like, it doesn't have to be like that, And so, yeah, I think and then also we need to listen to that little, whether you are a believer or not, whether you have the Holy Spirit or not, when something's telling you that, even if you can't put your finger on it, like,
Yeah.
the love bombing. They're just being so nice. Why would, but something feels weird. Listen to that feeling. You are having it for a reason. Don't just disregard it and be like, I'm going to find out for myself. Like, no,
Yeah.
don't. Well,
Yeah.
I saw Mario put
Mario,
in.
what you said. If a man asks you what you bring to the table with respect to finances, that's a red flag. I don't. Okay, is that a red flag for us or is that a red flag for a man?
I
If
think he's saying for like, if a man asks us that, that we need to see that as a red flag. I think if
is
that's
that what you're saying?
what he's
If a
saying,
man asks you what you bring to the table with respect, oh, so if a man is okay, Mario, you
like
need to explain. So if a man is asking you, how much can you give to the household,
financially, yeah.
or oh yeah, Mario said yes. Mario said yes. Okay, okay.
And that's an interesting one because, modern feminism would say,
I was gonna say,
"Mm,
well, that's kind of old fashioned, Mario. But
can be. I think that could be maybe a yellow flag.
uh,
Like
yeah, that could be a yellow flag.
a
Like,
yellow flag, like caution, pause.
yes, yes, yes,
There can there I know that there are, we've all heard the term gold diggers. There are
yes,
women out there who are just looking for somebody to pay their bills, and I mean, I've seen it. And
yes.
that's not healthy either. But if a man is specifically looking to not fully contribute or to see how, I think it really depends. It really depends. Like, yeah, I need to be on this panel so I can explain.
Yeah, we'll bring you on. We'll bring you on next time. We'll bring you on next time because you need to explain. Yes,
Yeah, but
it's a mindset.
mhm, yeah,
Okay.
I can see that. I can see that. I think that asking a woman that kind of shows maybe a little bit of insecurity in being able to provide, and I'm not like, for me personally, I work. I want to work. I'm not asking for someone to pay all my bills,
Yeah.
but I also don't want someone who's going to be put off by being a provider by, I don't know if I'm making sense.
So is
You
it
don't
so is
have
it
to
wrong to
provide
ask the question?
everything for me, but
So is it wrong when a man asks you, "Okay, girl, what do you bring to the table financially?"
I heard.
And and
No, go
then
ahead.
and then I'm like, to me, I'm thinking, okay, I can understand if you're asking because we're going to build something together and both of us are going to contribute, and then you're making plans. Okay, let's see, you put a little bit, I put a little bit, and we'll make this work. But if you have no job, you're very cute and very handsome and you love bombing me, but you can't afford, not a cup of coffee or anything, and you're just want to find out because no, I love you, girl, and we're gonna build a future, but keep your good work, and don't quit your job because we're gonna use your money to build this future with you, and I'm gonna be there right here. And you're like, what?
I think maybe it's the way they pose the question, because that question, what do you bring to the table?
That is
That is a little like, I heard this woman, I heard a video, I think it was on Instagram or something. She was like, if a man asks you, what do you bring to the table? Tell him, another man, if you don't quit playing with me. um, but so I think maybe asking a question of like, what are your ambitions? What are your goals? What are your hopes for, you know, um, how you think a household should be, that sort of thing. Like, yeah, that just feels a
that
little different.
I think that question brings up more questions that need to be discussed. I think
Mhm,
that's really the iceberg, because
mhm,
then you figure out, okay, so where do you stand on this? What is your thoughts on this, or what is your expectation? Are like some of us are saying we're old fashioned. So if he, even the idea of asking, like some people said, when he asked me, what are you bringing to the table? You need to say, I'm the whole table. Or I just all
like,
of these things,
there should
like,
be a table.
yes, I'm like, and then it's more of a discussion. Let's start
Right.
discussing the same thing. Like the same thing when it's did you have to ask so many questions during dating? You absolutely has, because then there's a question is like, How do you feel about the holidays? Well, I don't celebrate. What do you want to celebrate? No, because me and my mom and my cousin and my this and we fought and somebody got murdered and then we can't go anymore. And you're like, oh, whoa, whoa, you know what? Or like, no, I don't want nothing to do with Christmas because it's all about spending money and I'm not all about that. And you just have to ask so many questions. So yeah, let's see some of the comments. Let's see here. What
You
green?
know,
That
there
one. Go ahead.
something that could be a possible red flag for some people could be that, if their person has a toxic family, like
Yes.
if they don't want to or can't be around their family for whatever reason. I think maybe that could be a yellow flag. It may not be a deal breaker for everyone, but remember, when you enter into a marriage with somebody, you're marrying the family too. And I'll be
Yes.
the first to admit, I've got those family members that when new people come, you got to warn them about this
I
person.
got, yes, I
If
got a
you
couple of
don't have,
those. I got a couple of those that I want to make sure you like me a lot so you can overcome the shock when you meet my other family members. You
yeah.
know, you know.
But I think, if it's, yeah, the relationships with family members could be dirty fingernails. Yeah,
For
that's
real?
gross.
Explain that. I mean, what if he's a mechanic? If either
We
woman
pretty much
or
always
man
have
have
dirty
dirty
fingernails if it's
fingernails,
a mechanic.
oh my god, that is crazy.
Well, yeah. So the family thing could be if their mom says, "I wouldn't marry my son, you are a good girl." Please. Yeah, if mama's telling you, that is a for sure red
Yeah,
flag. Absolutely. If you're hearing warnings from the man's family, run,
yeah.
run. Okay. But yeah, family can be a deal breaker. Um, oh, there's special soap for mechanics. Interesting. Well, Mario would know because he is the car guy. So,
So there's a lot of, oh my god, with all these red flags and things like that, you wonder how is it that we're going to meet people, because
yeah.
when so let me ask you, when do we extend grace? when do we when do we say, okay, let's think about this, because he might have dirty fingernails, but he's a hardworking man. He's not rich, but he's good looking. He loves his mom. He goes to church, and so how do we deal with that?
Well, I think it differs from person to person. Um,
You don't with
everyone's
dating.
gonna have everyone's gonna have their limits, but I think if you're noticing that something is a pattern and there's verbal if they're verbalizing that they're going to make an effort to change these things, but the action isn't matching up and it continues as a pattern, I don't know, for me personally, if I would continue to have grace for that. Um, and what I mean by pattern is like of something that is a clear disrespect of a boundary that you've set clearly. For example, makes me uncomfortable that you talk to your ex so frequently. Is that something that, is this a relationship you really need to hold on to? If so, I think that's weird for me. I might want part ways. But if it's something they're willing to, like, okay, I'll work on that, and then it continues and it continues, and
Yeah.
the words aren't matching up, that I would say limit the grace.
Yes.
You're seeing a pattern, recognize the pattern. But I think we even talked about this yesterday, Maria, about like, okay, are they squeezing the toothpaste from the middle or the end?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Is that a hill you want to die on?
Yeah.
Or is it something you can be like, oh man, this really irritates me, it's gross, or they leave the cap off the toothpaste or something,
Yeah.
like, but like, are there other good qualities, that you could maybe have a little grace for that and not just be like, that's a deal breaker. But again, everybody's different. That might be a deal breaker for somebody.
And that's it, it might. And this is why I think it's very important to surround yourself around good people, good counsel, people that can guide you When you lose your mind because he's very good looking, or he smells good, or he talks, or he's love bombing you. That's why it's so important that when you don't understand the red flags, or you have concerns, or you tell friends, not everybody, but choose a couple of people that are wise, that have been around, that have been married for a while, and just talk to them and say, you know what, I have this concern. What do you think about this person? What do you think about that person? And just talk it out, because sometimes for you, there's things that I might not think that's a big deal, but for somebody that knows, that has experience, that already went through it, might tell you, hey, that is a red flag. You need to be aware. So that's why sometimes
Mm-hmm.
when we isolate ourselves, I understand the privacy about dating,
Yeah.
but let's talk to some people and say, you know what, I'm really interested in this person. I've been dating them for a while. Can you come talk to them, meet them, and what do you think about this? And they can guide you and tell you those red flags.
I think for me as a therapist, a red flag for me would be if a guy said he would never be willing to go to therapy.
Wow, yeah.
I'd be like, oh,
I
okay.
don't need nobody.
Yeah. And especially as a couple, like you're saying, surround yourself with people with wisdom. As a couple, there may be, that's how you solve the problem, Mario. Don't share the toothpaste. You each have your own. You can do with your toothpaste as you wish. Anyway, but you may need to seek counsel as a couple from your pastor, from your parents, from people who have been married for a long time successfully. And if your partner's not willing to do that and wants to keep everything internal, that can be a red flag, because sometimes we really need to step outside that relationship and seek, wisdom from an appropriate party. If you're just telling all your girlfriends and they're like, girl, you should slash his tires, like you should, like, no. But not being willing to seek outside help if needed would be a red flag for me, for sure.
Also talking about the other side too, when a person wants somebody that is not even at their level. To me, let me explain what I mean. To
Mm-hmm.
me is like, for example, I see those men there are ugly, unkept. They're just, I don't know. I don't want to be. I don't want to sound really bad, but they're fat. They're unkept. They're just like, I don't know. They're
They
just
got
lazy,
crumbs on their
whatever.
shirt.
And then they're like, I'm not gonna do you because you ain't skinny, because you're not pretty enough, because you don't got a good car, because this, and you're like, what? Or women, let me tell you, girls, sometimes those women, like, I want a man that has a job, and I want a man that can do this for me, and that can do that for me, and that can do this and all this, and I want him like this, and I want him like that. And then you ask her, well, do you know how to cook? Well, I don't need to cook because blah 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 blah. Oh, okay. Can you clean the house? What do I need to clean the house? He needs to be making enough money, so blah 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 blah. Okay, well, do you go to church? What church? No, blah blah blah. I do whatever. Or what are you doing with your life? I don't need to do anything with my life. I just need to be in the gym and do my nails. And he has to take care of me and my kids and my 5 kids. And I'm not blah, blah, blah. Because I'm not bringing anything to the table. I don't have to bring anything to the table. He has to take care. And it's just like, girl, just, or
High maintenance,
high
spoiled.
maintenance.
It's
It's
not
like,
cute.
then there has to be like a level of
Balance.
balance. Like if you're
Mhm.
going to be that demanding, be that good.
Yeah. No,
You know what I'm
absolutely.
saying?
And I've seen
If
people.
you're gonna be that demanding, be that good.
Hmm.
That's what I want to. I say that for a man, and I say that for a woman. Be that good. Let me see what mine.
I
I
mean,
like what mine.
I've seen women where, yeah, wanting a man with a job is a good thing, of
Yes,
course, but like again, it's all about balance. Like, I even know someone who her husband works, makes enough money for both of them. She does not have to work. She does go get her eyelashes done. She goes and does her yoga classes, but she also keeps their home looking like a magazine.
exactly. There's a
And
compromise. There you
so
go.
because she feels like her role is being a homemaker, like keeping the home beautiful, making like and
Oh,
she loves doing that, and she cooks, and she so if that is the arrangement that you have with your spouse,
exactly.
it's something that they agreed
Exactly.
on upon as a married couple, that he was like, I'm fine if you don't work, I make enough money, it's okay if you don't work. And she really loves keeping up the home, decorating, cooking, trying new recipes. And so that is something they agreed on. Now, if it's you're going into the relationship and the man's like, I expect you to do XYZ,
Yeah.
just like you're saying with a woman coming in, well, you need to work. And that's the coming in with demands is already, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Like, it
Exactly.
needs to be a compromise. I work and I commute long hours, and if somebody were expecting me to work and commute and come home late and have a meal prepared for them every single day and keep the house clean too, while we both work, and that would be hard for me. I'd be like, I need a partner in this because I'm working too. If
Yeah.
I'm at home all day, I could, yeah, I understand why you would expect me to take care of those responsibilities, but these things need to be discussed, and knowing what someone's expectations are is important. But yeah, having it's all about balance. Ultimately, it's all about balance and
What do you
communication.
think about those women or men that believe that they'll love them enough to make them change?
That's just, you're not going to make, that's all off the bat wrong. You're not going to make anybody change. Like, if you're with somebody because, oh, they have so much potential, no, bye,
Yes.
bye.
They get
Mm-mm.
so caught up in the potential, and they're like,
No.
no, because I saw him 3 good days and 5 bad, but I know it's in there. I know the good man is in there. If because they say if because I've heard them, I want to stick around because if I saw it, he's good or she's good, she has potential. I mean, we just need to work on her, or we need to work on him, and I know that if I pray it out of him, it'll come through. Or if I love him enough, she will change or he
Mm-hmm.
will change. And they're so like somebody said, delusional about that.
Let Jesus do it, not me. I am not going to waste my time. I'm sorry. Like, if somebody has potential, that's wonderful. They need to figure out how to fulfill that potential themselves. It is not on anybody else to change someone. Like, it's the responsibility is our own. The responsibility for change is our own. Nobody can make us do it. If you see potential in somebody and they're like right there but not quite all the way, like, great, separate yourself, give them time to figure out and find, like, that person, find the person that they need to be. Let Jesus do it, girl. Do not take on that responsibility. You are not the Lord.
Amen. Bridget says,
I'm
preach,
like,
Jade, preach.
it's too exhausting. It is not our job. We have to be responsible for ourselves. That goes for us too. We can't expect that, like, oh, I'm going to find a good man that's going to help me be the best me. Like, no, I need to be working on being the best me now. Like, yeah, I can't put that on somebody.
I want you to give me your thoughts on crazy attracts crazy, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the question is, so how do you recognize somebody that's healthy? How do you recognize the right person? How do you if all these red flags are given, then how do you know somebody healed? My answer to that, and you can correct me. And I want everybody to comment and tell me what y'all think, because I'm trying to keep up with y'all are commenting crazy, but I believe that healthy recognizes healthy.
Yeah.
So when you begin to work, I can't work on nobody else. I can't change anybody else, but I can heal me. I can work on Maria. I can work on my attitude. I can work on myself. And then once I start working and doing the work on me, I recognize what healthy is. I feel what healthy is. I have a healthy mindset. I know what it looks like because I'm familiar with it. So I can recognize it in somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that if you are attracting a lot of crazy people, look within yourself. If you are attracting people that are unavailable, if you're
Mm-hmm.
attracting people with anger problems, if you're attracting people that are losers, work on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Find out what is it that you are attracting, that you look at that, did you see that you're drawn to that, or that's drawn to you? Because I believe crazy draws crazy. So
That goes
go
back to
deeper.
that like original or one of those original red flags of all my exes are this, all my exes are that. Well, what's the common denominator in all those situations? You.
Yes, there you
So,
go.
you know what I mean? It's like, and even with the love bombing, if you're not healed and secure within yourself, you will. And I've been a victim of it. I've
Me
totally
too.
fallen for it
Like I said,
because
me too.
I did not feel confident in myself, that I didn't need all of that over attention. And, um, if you when you don't need that because you're good on your own, you're not going to be susceptible to it. That only works with people who are vulnerable, who are unhealed, who don't know how to validate themselves or find their own validation. And so, yeah, I would agree with you that if you are healed and healthy, nobody's perfect. We're all gonna have our issues. Nobody's 100% healed all the time. Like we have finally arrived. No, that's not realistic. But
Like I say, I walk on water and glow in the dark.
yeah, exactly. Nobody's Jesus, but I think that you'll recognize like if somebody is not healed because you yourself, maybe you were that way at one time and you recognize it, like, wow, that person's really insecure, they need a lot of reassurance, they need a lot from me and I can't provide that for this person, or I'm needing a lot from this person and maybe I need to work on myself. But yeah, absolutely, when you're secure and like you can each have your own friends and your own hobbies and don't have to do everything that each other, if the other person doesn't like what you like, and it's okay. Like, and when you can be that way and be your own independent people and still come together as two independent people, then yeah, that's kind of healthy. And when you have those um, insecurities and stuff, it does tend to draw people that are going to feed or fill those insecurities. You're looking for something that kind of fills that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've talked, we've shared so much. We've shared so if you are watching this and you know that somebody needs this, send them the link, send them this, because even after, if you see it in the replay, make sure you put their replay. If you're watching this, comment at any time this on Facebook, it stays on my page. And if you have YouTube and you want to see it over there as well, we'll put the links on YouTube, because all these podcasts that we're doing, with the purposes, we're gonna load them up on YouTube so you can continually watch them and recommend them and doing all that, because we want to grow. And the purpose is to have this Facebook and a channel where we are talking about these things and sharing, and I want to bring in people that are normal, just like you and I. That, I'm not bringing superstars. I'm bringing people normal. Okay, even though
You're
Jade
not
is
a
a
superstar.
superstar. Yeah, like I was gonna say, Jade is a superstar in her own
I'm
right.
just kidding.
She's a superstar. But what I'm saying is just people we can relate to,
Mhm.
that they'll tell us exactly the truth and stuff. So yeah. So Jade, if you want to do some closing remarks so we can land this plane, and
Yeah.
if you can close with the thought of, what would you say to those women and men that are faced with a red flag and they have to walk away?
I would say that the pain of walking away is much less severe than the pain of staying in an unhealthy situation. Um, Sever the tie early when you recognize it, instead of putting yourself through continued suffering. Sometimes separating from that person allows them to get to where they need to be, and sometimes people can come back together. But at the end of the day, you gotta take care of you. And I did just want to say too, really quick, that if anyone is struggling with any mental health issues or you have a loved one who is, we now have a national mental health crisis line. You can dial 988 instead of 911, 988. It's available 24/7. You can have someone to talk to anonymously, but
Oh, give
please
me that
share what
information again. Let's type that information. What
yeah.
is it? Is a national hotline?
National Suicide and Mental Health Crisis Line 988. Again, it's available 24/7. If you're
Wow, let me
sharing
put
like 2 in
that.
the morning, you're having a panic attack, you don't know who to call or what to do, you can dial 988, talk to someone. If you have a loved one who's thinking of suicide, you don't know where to go or what, call 988. So it's free, it's available at all times.
Wow. Let's see. Let me. Is that how it goes? National Suicide and Mental Health
Crisis
Dial
line.
Crisis Line. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Jade, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for commenting. The comments are still going. And 988. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much. And we will be bringing more. If you want to hear more about Jade, put it in the comments. Tell us what you want to talk about, and Jade and I will make sure we talk about it. And obviously, I just want to close again saying that this is just our personal experience. I'm not a professional, but we're just sharing our own personal experience, and hopefully, some of this will help you. All right. So, thank you so much for joining us. Be with us, and make sure you like, you follow, you subscribe to the YouTube channel. That will help me so much. So thank you. You have a good night. Don't go
Thank you, everyone.